What's going on, Space Monkeys? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden. We're going to finish up with On Guerrilla Warfare by Mao today. Last part of the last chapter, we're starting on page 71 towards the top, and it's only going to take a few minutes to get through it. Please send me any comments below on what we should read next. I have 10 or 11 books that I've put aside for potentials. If there's something that really gets a lot of votes, I will go out and figure out a way to get a hold of a copy, even if I have to just go to the library to get it. So give me some ideas. The next episode I'll put up will be just kind of giving you ideas on what might be upcoming, and then you guys will get a chance to vote. So page 71, towards the top. We've already touched on geographic factors in our discussion of bases, and we must also mention the economic aspects of the problem. What economic policy should be adopted? Any such policy must offer reasonable protection to commerce and business. We interpret reasonable protection to mean the people must contribute money in proportion to the money they have. Farmers will be required to furnish a certain share of their crops to guerrilla troops. Confiscation, except in the case of a business run by traders, is prohibited. Our activities must be extended over the entire periphery of the base area if we wish to attack the enemy's base, bass? I think it's supposed to be base. It says bass. And thus strengthen and develop our own. It could be ass, too, I guess. Probably base. Our activities must be extended over the entire periphery of the base area if we wish to attack the enemy's base, and thus strengthen and develop our own. This will afford us opportunity to organize, equip, and train the people, thus furthering the guerrilla policy as well as the national policy of a protracted war. At times, we must emphasize the development and extension of base areas. At other times, the organization, training, or equipment of the people. Each guerrilla base will have its own peculiar problems of attack and defense. In general, the enemy, in an endeavor to consolidate his gains, will attempt to extinguish guerrilla bases by dispatching numerous bodies of troops over a number of different routes. This must be anticipated and the encirclement broken by counterattacks. As such enemy columns are without reserves, we should plan on using our main forces to attack on them by surprise and devote our secondary effort to continual hindrance and harassment. At the same time, other forces should isolate enemy garrison troops and operate on their lines of supply and communication. When one column has been disposed of, we may turn our attention to one of the others. In a base area as large as Wu Tai Shan, for example, there are 4 or 5 military subdivisions. Guerrillas in these subdivisions must cooperate to form a primary force to counterattack the enemy, or the area from which he came, while a secondary force harasses and hinders him. After defeating the enemy in an area, we must take advantage of the period he requires for reorganization to press home our attacks. And this is partially why I think there needs to be a sort of division between the actual journalists in an information war and the people who are like me, who are just like political shit talkers and commentators. The journalists are like our main army. They're going to debunk everything. They're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to research. Now, us, the other people, the political shit talkers, are there to make fun of, mock, and meme out and destroy the mainstream media propaganda apparatus in ways that the journalists really can't do without tarnishing their reputation. So we can't do what they do, they can't do what we do. There might be a little bit of intermingling between the two, but we need to be the harassers and the hindrance creators. That's the way I see it. Let's see. After defeating the enemy in any area, we must take advantage of the period he requires for reorganization to press home our attacks. We must not attack an objective we are not certain of winning. We must confine our operations to relatively small areas and destroy the enemy and traitors in those places. When the inhabitants have been inspired, new volunteers accepted, trained, equipped, and organized, our operations may be extended to include cities and lines of communication not strongly held. We may hold these at least for temporary, if not for permanent, periods. All these are our duties in offensive strategy. Their object is to lengthen the period that the enemy must remain on the defensive. Then our military activities and our organization work among these masses of the people must be zealously expanded, and along with equal zeal, the strength of the enemy attacked and diminished. It is of great importance that guerrilla units be rested and instructed. During such times as the enemy is on the defensive, the troops may get some rest and instruction may be carried out. The development of mobile warfare is not only possible but essential. This is the case because our current war is a desperate and protracted struggle. If China were able to conquer the Japanese bandits speedily and to recover her lost territories, there would be no question of long-term war on a national scale. Hence, there would be no question of the relation of guerrilla hostilities into mobile warfare of an orthodox nature, both in quantity and quality of guerrilla. The quantity and quality of the guerrilla must be improved. Primarily, more men must join the armies. Then the quality of equipment and standards of training must be improved. Political training must be emphasized, and our organization and technique of handling our weapons, our tactics, all must be improved. Our internal discipline must be strengthened. The soldiers must be educated politically. There must be a gradual change from guerrilla formations to orthodox regimental organization. The necessary bureaus and staffs, both political and military, must be provided. At the same time, attention must be paid to the creation of suitable supply, medical, and hygiene units. The standards of equipment must be raised and types of weapons increased. Communication equipment must not be forgotten. Orthodox standards of discipline must be established. Because guerrilla formations act independently and because they are the most elementary or armed formations, command cannot be too highly centralized. If it were, guerrilla action would be too limited in scope. At the same time, guerrilla activities, to be most effective, must be coordinated not only insofar as they themselves are concerned, but additionally with regular troops operating in the same areas. This coordination is a function of the war zone commander and his staff. In guerrilla base areas, the command must be centralized for strategical purpose and decentralized for tactical purposes. Centralized strategical command takes care of the general management of all guerrilla units, their coordination within war zones, and the general policy regarding guerrilla base areas. Beyond this, centralization of command will result in interference with subordinate units as, naturally, the tactics to apply to concrete situations can be determined only as these various situations arise. This is true in orthodox warfare when communications between lower and higher echelons break down. In a word, proper guerrilla policy will provide for unified strategy and independent activity. Each guerrilla area is divided into districts, and these in turn are divided into sub-districts. Each subdivision has its appointed commander, and while general plans are made by higher commanders, the nature of actions is determined by inferior commanders. The former may suggest the nature of action to be taken, but cannot define it. Thus, inferior groups have more or less complete local control. That's On Guerrilla Warfare by Mao. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Go back and listen to all of the episodes if you're just tuning in now. Took me about way longer than I should have. But anyway, we're going to pick a new book as of the new year. Send me some ideas on Twitter or in the comments here on this episode here on YouTube, and we'll get to it and have a vote on what we're going to read as of the new year. Keep fighting that good fight out there, guys. Hope you learned something.